Hello, gents. This is Noor. Well, it finally happened. I had my first loss of the season last week, and I felt like I just needed to take a step away from everything and reprioritize what's important to me as a GM of a fantasy football team, potentially up and coming fantasy football team, but still a long way to go. Loss was a little surprising. It happens. You get a little used to just kind of grinding through each week and ending up on the right side of things. But it is what it is. I felt like I needed to find myself again as from a fantasy perspective. So I thought, maybe I should take a little trip. Maybe I should go sort out my thoughts, try and understand what it is again to be human and a fantasy football GM. And then I looked ahead and I thought, well, who am I playing next week? Like, who am I going to try and get it together against? And wouldn't you know it, I'm playing Kevin again. I just played him a few weeks ago. Here we are again. And I thought, man, I got one on Kevin last time. I'm a little bit on skates right now. After a loss, this could be a prime time for Kevin to strike. So I thought I need to out Kevin to make this work. I gotta bring everything I got, and the only way I know how to do that is to put myself in Kevin's mindset, to become Kevin, as it were. Much like when in Silence of the Lambs they go to Hannibal Lecter to figure out what the other serial killer is going to do. So I came to the place that I think Kevin would want to be at right now. And that's New Orleans. I'm currently standing on Bourbon Street, actively drunk, figuring out my priorities in the fantasy world. And I'm ready to get back after it. I'm ready to close out this deal and hopefully get another win against Kevin. Many hurricanes, many whiskeys, many more hurricanes, many more whiskeys have brought me to this humbling place where, you know what? More power for Alice. Way to pull it together last week. You played all the right people. 2/3 of which I feel like were on my team last year and weren't doing shit for me. But hey, they got you in. That's awesome. It would have been really easy to pack it up and go home after Dalvin Cook got hurt. But you made some moves. You pulled some free agents. You reinvented your team in a matter of days. Nothing but respect. Love the hustle. But I hopefully dodged a bullet with what could have been a much worse injury for Leonard Fournette. Hopefully that's the only potential speed bump hurdle challenge that I'm going to have to deal with, but let's see how it goes. This week, I'm not stumbling anymore, Kevin. I'm not on skates. I'm not backpedaling. I'm coming, and then I'll be there. Then my team will be there, and we're going to get this done. I thank all the other GMs for their support after my first loss. I know it wasn't easy for you guys to reach out, but I appreciate it. Team's going to be fine. We're going to be all right. I thank you all for your... Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'm really fucking drunk. I thank you all for making this league as great as it is. And I can only hope that my team gets back on the right track this week. Cheers.
You filthy snore!
Welcome back to episode 7 of the Dual Threat Podcast. I'll be flying solo tonight as Noor has better things to do. But tonight we are going to be recapping Week 6 action of the NFL.
Noor, wake up.
It finally happened. What scholars and holy men around the world proclaimed impossible, Noor has lost a matchup in fantasy football. The question for us? What does this mean? The end of times? A tear in the space-time continuum? What is up? What is down? Black is white? Right is wrong?
You're fired.
It's a confusing time for all of us right now, no doubt. With Noor's magical, undefeated streak finished, I just want to give some perspective on how dominant his season has been thus far. In 2016, through 6 weeks, the highest scoring team in the league had 684 points, an average of 114 points per game. In 2015 through 6 weeks, the highest scoring team in the league had 677 points, 112 points per game. In 2014 through 6 weeks, the highest scoring team in the league had 651 points, 108 points per game. Also, Corey had 371 points, a 61 point per week output through 6 weeks. So just a fun fact there. And then in 2013 through 6 weeks, the highest scoring team in the league had 692 points, 115 points per game. In 2017 through 6 weeks, Noor has scored 713 points for an average of 118 points per game. That's 3 points higher per week than any team in the 5-year history of the Gridiron Gala. It was an impressive run, and it will be interesting to see if Noor can match Mike's 2013 scoring record of 1,609 fantasy points for this season. With that out of the way, and Noor with 1 in the loss column, let's move on to news and notes from around the league. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, Green Bay Packers, is likely done for the season with surgery to repair a broken collarbone on his throwing shoulder. This is devastating news for the Packers, and they'll have to move on to back up Brett Hundley for the foreseeable future. Jameis Winston, quarterback, Tampa Bay Bucks, shoulder was limited in Wednesday's practice. Sterling Shepard, wide receiver, New York Giants. Sterling Shepard, ankle, returned to practice Wednesday. Shepard appeared to be limited, but it's a step in the right direction after he sat out all last week and didn't play in the big underdog win over the Broncos on Sunday night. Benny Fowler, wide receiver, Denver Broncos. Benny Fowler is expected to slide in as the Broncos' number 2 receiver with Emmanuel Sanders out for Week 7 against the Chargers. Devontae Parker, wide receiver, Miami Dolphins head coach Adam Gase said Devontae Parker ankle remains day-to-day. Deshaun Kaiser, quarterback, Cleveland Browns. Coach Hugh Jackson named Deshaun Kaiser the Browns' starting quarterback for Week 7 against the Titans. Leonard Fournette, running back, Jacksonville Jags. Leonard Fournette ankle is not practicing Wednesday. This doesn't come as a surprise, as Fournette jammed his ankle late in the Week 6 loss to the Rams, but was cleared to return, though he didn't. For now, expect Fournette to suit up Sunday in the Dome against the Colts. Ezekiel Elliott, running back, Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott has been granted another temporary restraining order by the Southern District of New York and will be allowed to play in Week 7. With news and notes from around the league out of the way, let's move on to our matchup review section. Matchup 1, Sam versus Slater. Man of the match. Carlos Hyde didn't have the most productive day in terms of yards per carry, but he did finish with 18 fantasy points on 13 carries for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns, while tacking on 5 catches for 47 yards. Hyde bounced back in a big way here, out-touching Matt Breida 18-6. It appears rumors of Hyde's demise were greatly exaggerated, as he took firm control of the 49ers backfield in Week 6 and was very involved in the passing game. Biggest disappointment. Lamar Miller was a major component in Slater's decision to deal away running back Le'Veon Bell. Miller returned Slater's faith by finishing with his 5th game of the season thus far with single-digit fantasy points. Slater has to be concerned about Miller's ability to provide large swings in fantasy matchups on a consistent basis. Overall thoughts. We got a glimpse of Slater's team after the myriad of trades that resulted from last week, and the result can't be what Slater had envisioned. Amari Cooper continued his cold streak, putting up 2 fantasy points, even with the return of Derek Carr. Though Ajayi was left on the bench, it is encouraging that he had his best fantasy day of the season, and he may have returned to the ranks of the RB1s, which Slater needs desperately. It was a low-scoring affair, but productive days from Hyde, Will Fuller, and the Texans' defense was enough to put Sam over the top as he moves to 3-3 on the season, while Slater drops to 1-5. Matchup 2, Tony versus Kevin. Man of the match. Antonio Brown continues his strong 2017 campaign as he had 8 catches for 155 yards and a touchdown against the previously undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. Brown was much more efficient on 10 targets this week than the 19 targets he received last week, and it's good to know he isn't reliant on a heavy workload to produce. Biggest disappointment. Chris Hogan proved to be human in this 1-point performance against the New York Jets. Hogan had previously scored 12 or more points in his previous 4 games. Though it may have been unreasonable to sustain that pace, Kevin had to have been disappointed with his performance in Week 6. Overall thoughts. The lead was buried here as Kevin suffered two of the most significant losses of this young season. In Week 1, the loss of number 1 overall running back David Johnson, and now Week 6, the loss of number 1 overall quarterback Aaron Rodgers. His team underperformed again as he drops 2 losses in a row and now sits at 4-2. After a disappointing week from Drew Brees, partially dictated by game flow, Tony has to really ask himself how long he's going to stick with Brees over Watson, as Watson outscored Brees this week 23-11. Matchup 3, Gomez versus Corey. Man of the match, Rob Gronkowski delivered for the Patriots against their narrow victory over the New York Jets, as well as Corey's narrow victory over Gomez. Gronk smashed with 6 catches for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. He finished with 20 fantasy points and proved to be the huge pendulum swing in this matchup that Corey needed. Biggest disappointment. Devin Funchess disappointed against a stingy Eagles defense, finishing with 3 catches for 36 yards on 9 targets. He had produced double-digit fantasy points the last 2 weeks, but matched up against the strong Philly secondary, Funchess couldn't get loose this week and potentially cost Gomez the win. Overall thoughts. Both teams performed well, and DeMarco Murray's resurgent performance on Monday night made it a nail-biter, but it wasn't enough as Corey's Brady to Gronk connection this week was strong and sealed the victory for him. Corey moves to 4-2 on the season while Gomez drops to 3-3. Matchup 4, Areola versus Jason. Man of the match.
Man of the match!
Melvin Gordon again came up huge for Jason, scoring 26 fantasy points on 34 total touches and 150 total yards, scoring twice. He now has back-to-back 26-plus point weeks after his disappointing 2-point performance against the Eagles in Week 4. Biggest disappointment. Julio Jones has had a decent year in terms of receiving yardage, but has failed to reach the end zone once in 2017. The trend continued against the Dolphins' 22nd ranked pass defense. Julio finished with 6 catches for 72 yards on 7 targets. Mike's franchise player continues to disappoint in 2017, and it remains to be seen if he can turn it around. Overall thoughts. The slide continues for Mike as he remains winless in 2017. Really let down by his Chiefs this week as Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and the KC defense combined for 12 fantasy points. Cam continues to put up good numbers, and Mark Ingram looked like a man possessed now that AP is out of town. On the flip side, it was good to see Mariota under center on Monday night. Though his mobility looked limited, his health should improve each week and the rushing ability will return in time. Jason gets the victory here and moves to 3-3, while Mike drops another and moves to 0-6. Matchup 5, Ferrell versus Noor. Before we discuss this matchup, I'd like to bring in the winner of this matchup, the giant killer himself, Michael Ferrell. Michael, great to have you. Is it too early to dub you the people's champ?
Oh, I love the sound of that.
All right, perfect. Thanks for joining us. Okay, Mike, as we all know, you had what some would call a stunning victory over Noor this week. What was your thought process during this week, and did it influence any of your start-sit decisions?
That's a great question, Sam. So going into this week, I almost counted it as a complete loss from the get-go. With Noor putting up what seems like 120 points a week, what has to be the strongest team we've seen in Gridiron Gala history. And myself, who's yet to break triple digits, I was thinking there's a slim chance I'd be able to pull off a win here. Let's be real. So as you mentioned before, Sam, my team was really lacking on getting in the end zone and really putting up big numbers. So, I wouldn't say this necessarily influenced who I started, except the fact that I knew I had to pick the strongest players I had. I knew I had to sit Crowell, and with Ty Montgomery being back, I knew Aaron Jones would have to regress. So I had to stick with my new toys, Le'Veon Bell and McKinnon. Ooh, so sexy. And honestly, hope for the best for my boom or bust receivers. And it just so happens the stars aligned for me this past week. We didn't see the usual 20 points from Gurley or Hunt. And although his team did still put up, strong numbers, I was able to finally have some players see the end zone. We had Fitz with 138 and a touch, Tate 96 and a touch, Brate got in the end zone. It was really nice to see what Bell can do, and McKinnon looks nice for me as well. So even surprising enough to me, I got lucky. I got my win, and my apologies to Nor, but had to hand you your first loss this past week.
All right, great response there. So let me keep on that train of thought here. You mentioned Jerick McKinnon. He seems to have been the right pickup in the Minnesota backfield after Dalvin Cook's injury. What are your thoughts on his performance thus far and into the future?
Well, I saw my season flash before my eyes when Dalvin went down the other week, and being my best player at the time, I was really devastated. But unfortunately, injuries are part of fantasy, and I feel what really makes a team is how one rebounds from losing players and the ability to make the proper adjustments to stay competitive. So, truth be told, I didn't even see McKinnon's performance in week 5. I just saw the numbers he put up that week, and I kind of went off the hype and decided to pull the trigger and put in a decent-sized bid for him. And it wasn't until this past week I got to see him play, and I think it's apparent he does some pretty awesome things when he has the ball in his hands. So I think it's great for the Vikings to have a dynamic runner to help take the place of Dalvin, and I think it'll be fun to have him on my team for the time being, and I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward.
All right. Okay, so though your team is performing well, not everyone's performing as well as they were anticipated going into the season. So the Cleveland running back Isaiah Crowell is an obvious disappointment. What's the plan with the Crow moving forward?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Sam, because Crowell is complete and utter garbage. It's pretty frustrating to have spent a second-round pick on him, but I guess that's my fault for picking up someone on the Browns. Even while we were drafting, when I saw his name on the board, initially my gut feeling was to pass on him, but there was something about what he had done last season and my need for a running back at the time, so went against what I had felt, unfortunately, and ended up picking him up, which goes to show you really have to trust your gut feeling, guys, and when you do, it should work out, and it should work out better than having a useless Crowell taking up space on your bench.
I mean, you've dealt with the disappointment pretty well, so congrats on that. Speaking of disappointments, you've also lost Greg Olsen and Dalvin Cook to injuries, two of fantasy studs. How you've been able to overcome that?
Yeah, I know it sucks to see those guys go, especially Olsen in week 2. But we all know it's a part of the game, and that's why I try to leave some cap room for mid-season pickups. And although I don't think these guys can be replaced necessarily, I do think we do get lucky with the gems and breakout players mid-season. So I'll be keeping my eye out and plan to stay plenty active on the waiver wire.
Okay, with those questions out of the way, let's do our weekly guest segment here where we talk about the tradability of some of your players. You know the deal by now. I'll give you a player's name. You give me a number 1 to 5, with 1 being untouchable and 5 being very willing to mingle, okay? Feel comfortable with that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's start off with number 1, your newly acquired running back, Le'Veon Bell. 1 to 5, what do you got?
Ooh, I got to give Bell a 2. Just to show he's not untouchable, but come on. I mean, with a salary that sexy, he's going to come at a hefty price. So I'll say he's a 2.
Okay, perfect. Nice and concise. Let's move on to wide receiver Keenan Allen. What do you got as a number for him?
Keenan's tradable. I mean, he's got to be a 4 for me. He's doing okay this season, and I think he still has potential to do more if Rivers and these Chargers can get their act together. But for now, I got to say he's a 4.
Perfect. How about second-year quarterback Dak Prescott? He's performing well this season. What do you got for him? All right, finally, your disappointing running back in Cleveland, Isaiah Crowell. You ready to cut bait on him, or are you still holding tight?
Ferrell is an absolute 5. So come and get him, boys. There's no way I'm starting this guy unless he can put up back-to-back double-digit weeks. So until then, feel free to send an offer my way.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Okay, hopefully we got the juices of the league flowing. I appreciate you making some time for us today. I know you're a busy man, and obviously you've got some parades to attend after beating Nor. So thank you for making time for us here at the Dual Threat Podcast. You got any last words for your fans?
Absolutely. I just wanted to say you guys have been doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. It was really a pleasure to be on the show, and thanks again for having me, and best of luck to you all.
Okay, appreciate that. That was Michael Ferrell, a.k.a. the People's Champ, a.k.a. the Giant Killer. So thanks, Mike, for joining us. Have a good night.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Ooh.
I was looking at this.
Man of the match. It was a heroic effort from many of Mike's players in this upset win over Nor. But Jerick McKinnon's 99 total yard performance with 2 touchdowns and Minnesota's win over the Packers really stood out as McKinnon answered the call of duty and now has back-to-back 19-point weeks since Dalvin Cook's injury. Biggest disappointment. T.Y. Hilton was 4th in the league in receiving yards and yards per catch going into week 6, but he let down Nor in a big spot here, finishing with just 1 catch for 19 yards. It does appear to be feast or famine with T.Y. this season, as his weekly scoring has fluctuated from 3 to 4 to 21 to 3 to 17 and now to 1 in week 7. It's difficult to know when to start the speedy wideout, and this certainly wasn't it, as he finished with just 1 fantasy point. Overall thoughts. It finally happened. It wasn't a letdown week from his team or an injury to a key player, nor was outscored, outplayed, and outmatched. It took a superhuman effort from many of Mike's players, but this outcome may breathe some life into this league, as Nor simply won't run the table on his way to a league title. Mike performed well in his win over Nor, and just like this week's podcast, Nor failed to show up.
I'm really fucking drunk.
Best start of the week.
You're a goddamn genius.
It takes some immaculate moves to take down Nor, and Mike Ferrell pulled one off this week with his start of Larry Fitzgerald at home against the Buccaneers. Fitz had scored single-digit fantasy points 4 of the first 5 weeks on a decent target load, but Fitz exploded in week 6 with 10 catches for 138 yards and a touchdown on 11 targets. It appears Fitz is much more efficient with a healthy dose of the run game to supplement his usage, and Ferrell profited from this explosive day from the 34-year-old wideout. Worst start of the week.
You're a stupid dumbass.
Amari Cooper continues to struggle in 2017. He now has 5 fantasy points in 5 weeks. He hasn't eclipsed 65 yards receiving this year and has only eclipsed 35 yards receiving just once. It was a poor decision to start Cooper this week by Slater, and he should anticipate missing his first productive game since week 1 with Cooper on his bench rather than guess when it will occur week to week.
Slanders. All right, thanks guys. Welcome to another installment of Slater Slanders. Well, it's officially happened, guys. I've hit rock bottom. Never thought I'd see it. I've never been in this position before. It's awkward. It's embarrassing. Not sure really what to do at this point. I mean, a lot of it's probably, blame it on me because all of the trades, but really, I tried to go back and look. It wouldn't have made a huge difference even if I had stood still or not made those trades. It's just, I just suck all around. Never been in this position. And at 1-5 in least amount of points. I was just curious. I did a quick calculation, and I knew it was going to be bad. My receiver position, and again, the self-inflicted wound, I understand that. But Jesus Christ, I did the math. In 6 weeks, I started only 2 receivers. I've never done a 3-receiver set. In 6 weeks, 2 players each week. That's 12 total receivers possible. My receivers have gotten 32 points. Think about that. 32 points between 12 receivers. I feel like Chris Hogan's got that in 2 games alone, just him. I'm like, I feel like I don't even know how to play this stupid game anymore. But I gotta just make sure that I just continue to keep playing. That's all I can do at this point. It just really just sucked out all the wind of this year. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you that. Oh, this is so fun. I'm loving it. It's so much fun. And just at 1-5, again, I've never been in a position where I hate this game. What? I wish I never got sucked into it in the first place. Every week, I just think I'm done with this shit. Not playing again. I'm not playing next year. But I know I'll get that itch. It's a cruel game. It's cruel. A lot of people are, loving this and soaking this up. Oh, Slater's 1-5, loving it, laughing. Some people have never tasted anything that I've done. But, you go through lulls. This is what happens. You play for 10 years and you're bound to get one. And I'm hoping I'm getting this all out of the way right now. But, again, I didn't watch any game Sunday. When I saw that the pick six from Houston, sick to my stomach. God fucking damn it, Hogan. I knew it. They're marching down, and I literally, maybe it's my fault because I'm thinking telepathically, maybe to these people, but when I saw that march, this is too good to be true. Browns are marching down against Texans D. What's going on? They're getting to the 20. And I thought, and I claim this is my fault because I knew I was thinking literally right before he threw that pick. I knew I said, what's the worst that can happen? And right when I thought that, and I'm being serious, I thought that, and he threw that lofty fucking Nerf ball and got a pick. Okay, at least just get a pick. Oh God, of course it's a touchdown. Why wouldn't it be? The worst possible. So that's like 15-point swing, and I just turn off I'm done. I'm just so sick of this shit. Why does this always happen to me? And I'm putting this on record. Today, I'm recording this Thursday. Jason can prove the timestamp. Marshawn Lynch is going for 2 touchdowns tonight. I don't even know if I'm watching, to be honest. Honestly, I know that sounds like I'm being melodramatic, but like, I have no desire to watch this game tonight. Amari's going to give me 3 points. I'm not going to watch this shit anymore. I'm just going to, I'm closing my eyes. I'm setting my light. I'm closing my eyes, and I'm waiting for this nightmare to fucking end. It's just a waste of year. But, I'll keep doing these podcasts. I just keep venting my frustration, I'm probably not going to be active on that text thread. I have it to ignore. I'm done. I really don't care what you guys have to really say. My team sucks, and that's all I care about. So you'll hear me doing these, and I'll just keep looking forward to next year and keep trying to get that one game ahead of Mike, because if it comes down to points, it's not going to even be an issue. So again, I'll see you guys next week. This is fucking pathetic. But I guess that makes for greater Slater slander. Soak it up, guys. See you guys next week. Bye.
Matchup Preview, A matchup I'm looking forward to in Week 7 is the revenge game as Kevin plays Nor again in Week 7 and will try to avenge the first loss of the season Nor handed Kevin in Week 5, while Nor tries to bounce back from his first loss of the season last week against a feisty Kevin team. Kevin! And I was going to ask Kevin, what do you think are some keys to victory? Kevin, bitch. Okay, here we go. With our matchup preview section out of the way, let's move on to our last segment of the day. As is tradition, a review of our weekly power rankings. Number 10, Mike Arriola, 0-6. It's getting a bit painful to write as the losses keep mounting for Mike. He just recently shook up his team, so let's see if these moves pay dividends here in Week 7. Number 9, Alex Slater, 1-5. The drastic moves made last week did not appear to pay off as he put up a mere 73 points in Week 6. He didn't have Dez, who was on bye, and Ajayi appears to be back in his good graces, so let's see if they can provide a boost to propel Slater to his second win of the year. Number 8, Sam Nix, 3-3. Skating by in Week 6 with an unimpressive performance from multiple players, it appears the volatility of this team doesn't provide for consistent week-to-week scoring. Number 7, Kevin Wallen, 4-2. What a change of events from the previously ranked number 2 Kevin, but losing David Johnson and Aaron Rodgers through 6 weeks, that will do it to you. Adrian Peterson looks like a nice find, but if Hogan isn't performing like a wide receiver 1, and Martavis Bryant obviously can't pick up the slack. Number 6, Alex Gomez, 3-3. Losing a close one in Week 6 to Corey, Gomez showed well, and it was nice to see DeMarco Murray pay dividends. With Crabtree back in the fold, Gomez boasts a reformed roster that appears to be formidable. Number 5, Jason Bercese, 3-3. Picking up a win in Week 6 with impressive showings from Melvin Gordon and Jarvis Landry. It remains to be seen how well this team can function without Gordon's superior play, but for now, we won't have to wonder as the Chargers running back is running hotter than anyone in the last 2 weeks. Number 4, Michael Ferrallis, 3-3. The giant killer himself moves all the way up to number 4 here as his team performed amazingly in Week 6. The Le'Veon Bell trade has worked out great thus far, and Jerick McKinnon is a real difference maker. If he can get consistent production out of his wide receiver corps and Cameron Brate, watch out. Number 3, Corey Hart, 4-2. The wins keep mounting as he staved off Gomez in Week 6 to pick up his 4th win of the year. Doug Martin's return has been a welcome sight as he just can't seem to lock down that second running back spot. But it doesn't really matter if Gronk is going to catch 2 touchdowns each game, and thus far in 2017, it seems like that's a good bet to make. Number 2, Tony Funston, 4-2. Tony works his way back to number 2 and rode his studs Jordan Howard and Antonio Brown to victory in Week 6. Breeze and Anderson were big disappointments, and the latter may be a bigger concern moving forward. But with the return of LaShawn McCoy, this team appears to be poised to make a deep run. And number 1, Nor Sandu. One loss doesn't push Nor out of the number 1 spot. His team still performed well, and all his studs are intact. His team is still the most talented top to bottom, and it will be interesting to see how he bounces back from his first loss in Week 7. So there you have it. Episode 7 in the books. Thanks to our special guest, Mike Ferrallis, JB Behind the Glass, to our absentee co-host, Nor, and myself, Sam Nix. We'll see you again next week.
Hello, everyone. I hope this message finds you well. This is JB in front of the glass. Something must have happened with the universe, some kind of cosmic event for me to end up on this side. I just blinked and I was transported, but for good reason. The heavens have brought me here to bring you a message. So really quickly, I just want to thank all of you for your kind words and support. It's really helped us push through a somewhat grueling production process. Unless be it by some miracle where Sam and Nor pull some shit out of their ass. Next week, there will be no show, though. I will be out of town playing some other shows. In fact, on Thursday, if you all want to come out, I'm playing with one of my favorite bands, R Noir, from Norway, and we will be supporting them in San Francisco, then also following them to LA. I'm sure I won't see you in LA, but if you guys want to come out to San Francisco, I'd really appreciate your faces. But yeah, so pretty much I will be in full practice mode this week and then out of town Thursday, Friday, leaving us no time to really produce the show. So the Gridiron Gala podcast is going on a week by. I hope you guys will be excited for the following episode, as we'll have even more stuff to react to, more trades, hopefully, more crazy news and notes from around the league, and of course, more of your equally smart and stupid decisions to start and sit certain players. Anyways, so yeah, thanks again, everybody, for the support, and we will see you next time.